Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another Gun Gripe episode for you. This one's a doozy. We're going to go down the rabbit hole of what is a fun gun? All right, I know you've probably have heard that term thrown around a couple of times here and there. We're going to dive into the subject. I think you'll really enjoy this particular gripe, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to do this one.
It takes us a while to do a bunch of different gripes.
Sometimes it takes us a minute to get to some of these, but this is one that's been on the list a while, so we're going to dive into it. Before we get started, though, I want to thank our friends at RMA Body Armor for supporting Gun Gripes. They've got some great options for body armor. We've done a lot of testing on their armor plates, all American made from point A to point B. Really great people. Look into them, RMA Body Armor, and check out some of our tests. I think you'll really enjoy it. They've also got some awesome soft armor that we're going to be showing off. I know we've done a lot of the hard plates, but stay tuned for that, and check out some of the RMA stuff. Really good people, and tell them we sent you. So, what's a fun gun? When you hear people say, well, I bought this fun gun, right? Some people look at, let's just say, firearms in general, and you've got a couple of different people. You've got folks that might buy some very specific tools for a specific task, like maybe somebody's got a couple of hunting rifles because they're a hardcore hunter. Maybe they're into handgun hunting or something. Maybe they are really much into training and personal protection, so they're going to make sure they got their AR and their shotgun and their pistol or something. But then you get other people that go, well, I'm going to buy this as a fun gun. And what a fun gun would be is a gun that it doesn't really necessarily have a purpose, right? But it's just something, and I think that this is what really gripes a lot of people, is that not only does it not really have it doesn't have to have a real practical purpose. Sometimes it might be a gun that maybe it doesn't even run all that great. Maybe it jams left and right if it's an auto loader. Maybe it's an impractical barrel length that doesn't really serve any purpose, right? I know you've seen some people build those little bitty kitty cat ARs with like 6-inch barrels and stuff. They're not practical, but it's a fun gun, right? So situations where someone like cuts a barrel down super short, like on Fugly here, okay, this is a fun gun. I mean, is it practical? Maybe not, but gosh, is it fun? That sort of thing. I think that's what you kind of get into. Like,
it's a pretty
it may
good
not
definition.
be practical, but it certainly is freaking neat.
The gripe is when you have a fun gun, but people who aren't very fun want to insert their opinions into everything that you do. Like, why would you spend money on that? Blah, 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 blah. Like, they want to gripe at you for having something cool that belongs to you that doesn't have anything to do with them, but they want to insert, like I said, their opinion and their, their distaste of your personal choices, just in a conversation.
That's a great point. I mean, a lot of folks, you end up seeing someone
Why would you buy that?
Yeah, okay, why would you sporterize a military surplus rifle? It could even be in that vein, right?
You ruined history.
Yeah, why would you take that Mosin and cut it down like that and do that with it when you're ruining history or you're doing this or you're doing that? And look, things don't always have to make sense. I mean, there's going to come a point in every gun owner's journey where you're going to want some fun guns. And are they practical? Do they make sense? Maybe not. Do they even work all that great half the time? Maybe not. They may not always be 110% tried and true in terms of reliability, or the concept might be a little odd or weird. Like, for instance, I remember when Chad did his Ruger, and we cut it down super short.
I was just thinking about that, so you read my mind.
Added the suppressor. It took a little bit of time for Chad to get that gun to run 110% properly, and it still is kind of spotty here and there. May not be super reliable. Now,
look,
are there guns? Is that a gun you take into a gunfight or into a trophy hunting situation, or to go plink with your kids and teach them the finities and niceties of marksmanship? Probably not, but it's a fun gun.
It is, and the thing is, like, I got some hate for that concept, but I have seen so many other people out there building guns like that, building like more modern Ruger series, like Ruger Mark series guns. Like, mine was an original like Mark II or earlier. I can't even remember at this point. It may have been even an earlier gun.
Mark I.
But the thing was like $125. I stole it because it was assembled improperly. The person who had it before didn't know what they were doing with it. The shop I bought it from didn't know how to get it apart. So I walked out of there with it. They had 250 on it. I walked out of there with it for half price. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to have my buddy cut this thing down on his CNC machine and just make a 2-inch barreled crazy Ruger like in the movie Assassins. That was the whole idea. It was just a cool little movie gun. And yeah, like Eric said, it's not the most reliable thing. It runs pretty good with Remington Thunderbolt, actually. I don't know what powder they use in there, but it's got a high like initial start pressure. And that barrel being so short, there's just no back pressure to get that bolt working properly. Even though I tried all kinds of different springs, it still is a little bit unreliable. But it's a fun, gun, and it's a nice conversation piece.
All right, something else to consider about that rig, though, I think that is the redeeming quality of the situation. There is light at the end of the tunnel. All right, after Chad initially put that rig together and started, we did a video on it, and that video got quite a few views, and it got a lot of attention of people. And then what did you start to see? You started to see integral suppressed Mark IVs become much, much more common, right? People take the Mark IVs and they machine them, and they have an integral suppressed upper. And also notice all of the awesome threaded Mark series pistols that Ruger started putting out. They had already been putting out a few, but they really went down the rabbit hole after some of those videos. I'm not saying that we were responsible directly for that.
Just a tiny part, maybe.
But
maybe.
The point I'm making, though, Chad, is that when you show off cool things and it gets people's gears turning, yeah, the initial concept of that fun gun that you came up with may not be the absolute perfect equation for making that system come together, but then it gets other people's gears turning, it gets the company's gears turning, and they put out a commercial product that kind of mirrors the fun you're having with that, and it sort of gets you in that same ballpark. So, it is interesting to see that sort of thing come into play. A fun gun doesn't always stay a fun gun. Sometimes you take a concept and play around with it long enough and it becomes a production gun. I mean, there's many situations where that has occurred over the years with a wide variety of different guns. Bill Ruger used to take Savage Model 99s and convert them to some auto. And that's a lever action. Right? So, okay, were they super reliable? Maybe, maybe not. But there are situations where people have these novel concepts that they come up with, and it just becomes a fun gun. I mean, even like this Martini behind me here that Mark Novak did for me. It was a Martini that had suffered a really terrible, break in the stock, and basically it was sticking out of the side of a pallet, and a forklift literally broke the thing in half, and it was just completely screwed.
Well, right? The barrel was real pitted and just nasty. The receiver had some pits and stuff in there, and it was just loosey-goosey, just an awful piece.
Yeah. But now that's an example of you're taking something and it's sort of reborn again and becomes something new. And yes, it's a fun gun, but it's also can be a very practical type of setup. Even this fugly here. If you watch our original video on this, yes, we built it as under the guise of it's just a fun gun and a conversation piece, and it's just kind of a what-if sort of thing, what you could do. But in practice, the thing's actually really dang accurate, and I would totally carry this thing hunting. No, I would not hesitate taking a humane shot on a game animal with this.
Please put your suppressor on there before you take that thing hunting. Because, we don't want to scare all the deer away.
This sucker is freakishly loud without a can on it. But with a suppressor, it sounds really great with the Barnaul 203 grain soft points. It's got a nice pitch. It's not too loud. And if the shot you're taking is kind of close, doesn't quite crack. Oh, man. This is a great setup. So there are situations where these fun guns kind of become something that, has the unintended consequence of, well, it started out as fun, and then it ended up being something that you actually use as a tool when you end up kind of going, well, cool, I like this,
So, one fun gun that is pretty popular and whatnot, but we've shown it off a few times, but the 4.5-inch barreled 22s, the CMMG uppers, right? They're dedicated setups, all right, and it's a complete upper, all right? It's not like a conversion kit that you drop in your 5.56 or whatever, but I set one up as an SBR a while back and had a normal stock on it, but I swapped it over to a VZ58 stock. Had to do a little finagling, to get that thing to work right, and but now it's got a VZ58 stock on it just in the normal format, but we typically run it with M16 lower, and with the 50-round drums, it's always a hit at the range days. And, people have been using those for a while, But after we really started shooting those things more and more and more, you started seeing a lot more of the short, compact 22s, especially with the prevalence of like pistol braces and stuff on the market. And they just kept getting tinier and tinier and tinier, And CMMG has a whole line of options for the 22 uppers, the dedicated uppers, and they are immensely fun. But also, like we talked about that gun in like the top 5 zombie guns, video, and 50 rounds of 22. I mean, it would ruin your day.
Oh yeah.
So
a few
practical
points.
in that sense.
I want to make a few points about that rig. That's a fun gun, but also a very practical gun for the exact same reasons that Chad mentioned. But it's also kind of interesting to note that, when you get really short on barrel lengths in 22, you do lose a good bit of performance. You might not get the same amount of velocity. But then again, though, I mean, you got to think a handgun barrel, 4.5 inches, is pretty indicative of what you would see in a handgun in some situations. So
it is.
You're not losing that much performance. Now, when you go to like the length that he did, because the Ruger you did was only like a 2-inch barrel, 2.5-inch barrel.
Yeah, the barrel's 2 inches on the Ruger Mark gun. But the usable barrel length, the rifling, is only like 1.25 inches.
Yeah, so see that you're really poor.
So, but I did some chronograph testing with that, and I have to look the data up, but I might plug it in if I can find it. But like CCI standard velocity stuff was running like maybe 700 to 800 feet per second instead of like 1070 like it normally does. And really the 4.5-inch barrels, they'll drop like full power ammo, like 1,200 to 1,300 feet per second, like full velocity, a high velocity 22 ammo. It'll drop it down to around 1,050 to 1,100, give or take. So it'll stay relatively subsonic in most cases. The standard velocity ammo typically runs right around 1,000, maybe 1,020 if it's up there around 1070.
That's
and
right.
then the subsonic stuff is geared more towards like the 16-inch barrels, and it's running under 1,000 feet per second, but you're not really losing that much velocity with a 4.5-inch barrel. And the thing is, you can be way more accurate with a rifle type setup with that sort of barrel length than you can with a handgun. And we've talked about this in the past too.
Yeah.
Like the PCCs and stuff, especially like the Glocks that we've put in the B&T chassis. There's no way you could shoot as far and as accurately and as precise as you can with that stock setup on there as an SBR than you can just shooting it by hand. I mean, maybe if you're Jerry Mitchell or somebody like that, some high-speed shooter, but for most practical applications and most shooters, you're going to be way more accurate with a setup like the 22 or like a B&T or something like that than you would if you were just running a simple handgun.
And I think some of it comes down to sort of obtainability. And,
absolutely.
And, like the CAA micro conversion kits, we've worked with those, and those are a great affordable option for someone that wants to trick out a fun gun like that.
The Fluxes.
That can still, get into the territory of being useful.
Oh, yes.
The Flux is another great example, as Chad said. There's lots of useful options out there. Without getting on the vein of just PCCs and braces and things like that, fun guns have just taken on a completely different type of thing in the last like 10 or so years. What would be considered just a little fun gun. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, if somebody went and bought a little Topper 88 and just had as a little fun shotgun for shooting limbs out of trees or pine cones or hunting with or whatever, that might fill the role of a fun gun, just a little single shot or something. So it's interesting to see the change in society and the change in the way that people look at guns, not only as tools, but just as cool pieces of, engineering and memorabilia. It's interesting to see that guns can serve a wide variety of different purposes and be used across a wide variety of different interests and everything. Like, you got folks that are really into the black powder stuff. Some people don't care. Some people would consider a fun gun to just be like a little flintlock or a percussion cap gun. Maybe they don't hunt with black powder. Maybe they don't shoot black powder a lot. But maybe they've got all the latest and greatest tech and all the random toys that they could ever want. And they go, you know what? I'm going to go to a pawn shop and pick up a little percussion cap black powder rifle just for fun, just as a fun gun. I may not use it to hunt. But it's just something to be able to just scratch a different itch. Sometimes a fun gun can be a cool milsurp. Maybe you've got like a whole bunch of different tactical stuff. You got your favorite hunting rifle, whatever, and you just want to venture into maybe purchasing a military surplus rifle to scratch the itch of having something that, you know what, may not be practical for something you want to use it for, but it's just cool to freaking have. It's cool to pick up and go, man, check this out. You know?
Well, also, like,
neat.
Considering the gripe aspect of this video, just piggybacking on the milsurp comment here. All right, take like an M1 Garand, for example. And you people out there know who you are. But, well, if that Garand ain't all matching numbers, it ain't nothing. Right? You can't just have a Garand that's mixed-matched parts with a brand new Criterion barrel, a brand new walnut stock that you hand-finished yourself, and just go out and have fun with it and shoot it without some criticism.
There are a
from
lot of
someone
judgmental people out there,
you know,
that'll go, oh,
I mean,
well,
God.
your bayonet doesn't match,
Oh, my
or
God.
that's not the correct sling for that rifle, or that Winchester has mismatched parts. Who gives a crap? If somebody's out there having fun with what they're dealing
Man.
with, and they're shooting, and they're engaging in the sport, and engaging in our rights, who gives a crap if every little thing is right? And you got a lot of people like that. I mean, I'm not going to say specific names. It doesn't matter. But there's a lot of folks, they get really far in the weeds on, you know, this stock was made by this person. And, you know, they get, and it is fun, to be fair, to get into all the details of some of these things, especially the history. That's what gets me with the military history in a lot of these service rifles. It is cool to think, oh, well, that rifle, because it's got that marking, might have been used in this campaign, in this battle. You can even sometimes dial it in to like where it was captured, who it was captured by, and that is cool. That is interesting to know. But don't necessarily get wrapped up on that to the point that, you know, it's cool if you want to get into that, but don't think that you have to go down the proverbial rabbit hole of interest in that. You can just enjoy it as being a dang gun. At the end of the day, it's just a dang gun.
All right.
And it's made to be used.
Practical or pointless? Tiny, short-barrel, double-barrel shotguns.
That's a fun gun.
Is that a fun gun, or are they immensely practical in close quarters situations?
I mean, I think that there's certainly a valid reason to have a short shotgun, right? I mean, think about all the old school, you know, guns that you've seen over the years with short barrels, right? Whether it's like the older Howdah pistols that have, you know, and they're short Howdahs, short coach guns, and they deal with like highwaymen and stuff with short guns. You always hear the term riding shotgun, right? That's what they mean. Like the dude in the coach that's running security against highwaymen. That used to be a thing.
Had a double-barrel coach gun at the ready.
That's right, at the ready. So, you know, what barrel length is practical? Or are we talking where you cut the barrels down so short that when you chamber the shells, you could just about see them that far from the end of the barrel? Well, is that practical?
There is a guy who's done that, and I'm not really sure you would consider that a fun gun. I think it would just about kill.
I think it's a punishing gun. But is that a fun gun? Is it in fun territory? Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really like blame someone for wanting to partake in a certain area of the Second Amendment in terms of enjoying gun technology, because if that's what it takes to get them into it and to spread it out to other people and to get other people interested in it, then I say anything goes, right? I mean, I've seen some silly builds, especially with ARs being such a Lego gun where you can just change out tons of different things and features. I mean, all right, here's another
Let's
example.
Let's go.
Okay, the Dolos, the takedown Dolos that we did. All right, is that a fun gun? Is that practical? Is that something you really would trust your life to? Is that something you would deploy and use in a real, situation? I guess that depends, right? But is it fun? Heck yeah, it's fun. It's awesome. Is it practical? Yeah, it can
All
be.
right, so I do have one gripe in this gripe, and this is one thing.
A gripe within a gripe within a
All
gripe.
right, this is one thing that, and look, this is just my opinion, and you can take it for what you will, but the skeletonized ARs that have all the lightning cuts everywhere conceivable, and they're crazy, Cerakote and all that kind of stuff, like those are showpieces. To me, it's a fun gun, that's fine, but there's no way I would ever consider using that anywhere except like a clean room, because it just seems like any little bit of dust and crap that gets in there, you're just opening yourself up for trouble. with all those openings in those receivers. I know you guys have seen them before. But like,
That's right.
Look, you want to have something like that? That's your fun gun. That's perfectly fine. I don't really see it that way, but hey, that's my opinion, and I'm not going to like criticize you for it or anything. But that's one of the fun guns I've seen out there that does irk me just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
In terms of the cosmetics, all right, getting down to finishes and things like that, and some of the hydro dipping. Our friend Chris at ATF Hydrographics does some great, hydro dipping work.
Hey!
Yeah, shameless plug. But the point is, you have seen in recent years a huge shift just in I'd say probably the last 12 or 15 years, once Mike Lauer became, I believe that's his last name, Lauer. The gentleman, Duracoat.
Lauer Custom Weaponry.
Lauer Custom Weaponry.
Yep.
So when Mike Lauer came out with Duracoat, that really changed things.
Mike or Mark?
I think it's Mike.
Okay.
Mike, I hope I got your name right.
We can't remember.
But Mr. Lauer, could sort of revolutionize the industry and what you could put on a gun in terms of color. I mean, that's what this is Duracoat. This is Norwegian Army Green Duracoat. So once Duracoat came out and some of these home spray finishes, it really did open the door for a lot of people to just go crazy and go down the wheelhouse of really coming out with some really cool things and sort of, going beyond just the functionality of a gun. And now we're going to, paint weird finishes on them and things
now
like that.
they're literally pieces of modern art.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, some guns look like Jackson Pollock got a hold of them.
Look,
so
who cares? I mean, so my thing is, look, somebody wants to have a dolled out gun, all cool and Gucci, and I know I've seen a bunch of random ones that are, I've seen Mandalorian and Star Wars,
Oh,
and
gosh,
they look like Star Wars blasters,
Nintendo blasters.
Nintendo blasters. I mean, that's cool. All right, if that is a fun gun in that category for you, if that's what it takes for you to want to be into guns and you just enjoy it and it makes you happy, by gosh, you do whatever the heck you want. And I just think it's so cool that the Second Amendment community has really just opened up to a wide variety of different things. I mean, look at the 3D printing community. I mean, so much innovation has been, accomplished in that community in terms of people coming up with some really cool things. All right, now, are some of them practical? Not always. Do some of them blow up and not work half the time? Maybe not. Maybe they do. But is it neat? Is it cool to see those concepts kind of fine-tune and then become something that is a functional piece that goes from fun gun to, hey, this is a serious thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, the thing is...
And I encourage that. I think it's great.
You're pushing material boundaries with things that you have available as a home hobbyist. So you're pushing the boundaries of these materials and these manufacturing techniques is really what they are. I mean, 3D printing is additive manufacturing. You're doing layer upon layer upon layer and hoping they stick together, right?
Yeah.
But the commercial applications of that in the professional realm, they're pretty incredible. Like with the direct metal laser sintering and all that kind of stuff. See, that's
Man.
fun to me. That stuff is
Just the
crazy.
The technology gains that we've had, not only in metal finish and metal prep and refinishing and colorings and coatings and things that we've gotten, but manufacturing techniques. I mean, never before has there been such a plethora of interesting things at the fingertips of gun people that we can have fun with. And that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day, right? Like, you want to get out and train and get better and practice your marksmanship, practice your tactics, right? We all want to be better hunters. We all want to be able to defend our home better. We all want to be better shots. Some of us want to learn how to shoot long range really well. Some of us want to, learn about NFA stuff and have fun with machine guns and suppressors. But at the end of the day, okay, when it all boils down to it, it has to be fun. It has to be something you want to do and engage in because it's just, a joy to you to do, at the end of the day.
I think about a comment that somebody left on an Instagram post the other day.
Okay, let's have it.
So it's just, all right. So I posted a picture of the Bagara, the B14-22. Right, was doing some testing with it and all.
You got video coming up. It's not up yet.
So shot some groups at 100 yards with a variety of different ammunition. The Center X did quite well. I mean, I had 3 out of 4 groups were half MOA, roughly. I'm like, all right, that's pretty solid, for just a factory gun. And I use the term budget because it is a budget gun. And look, those match guns like that, they're heavy, they're impractical, but buddy, they shoot great and they work perfectly for a match. Is it a gun that you take hunting? Probably not. Okay, it's very impractical for that purpose. But 22s that fit on a Remington 700 chassis, okay, or a pattern, those are the very definition of foam guns.
That's right.
You're shooting a 15-pound rifle that shoots 22.
But is
okay?
it fun to shoot golf balls at 100 yards off the back of the berm? You better believe
Dude,
it.
you could shoot golf balls at probably 200 yards with those. Like, the Voodoo, all right? The Voodoo is not a budget gun, okay? But the Bergara is, and the way we had it set up was very much budget. I mean, Arkin optic, sub $500 optic, a Caldwell bipod, and then $1,000.
But a great bipod, though.
A great
for the
bipod,
money,
yeah,
those
for the money.
Caldwells,
Look,
there's great.
But $1,000 Bergara B14 budget match grade 22 rifle, and it really delivers the goods for the money. But it's like, budget? Ha ha ha! I don't think so. I'm like, come on, man! Like, what's the other option? I mean, we've shown off the Voodoos in the past, but I mean, you're talking $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 setups. Some of these guys run, Night Force ATAC Rs on the top of them, and you're talking a $3,500 optic on top of a, depending on the chassis and stuff you run, maybe a $3,000 22.
But at the end of the day, if you put your granddaughter or grandson behind that B14, that Bergara, with a suppressor and an optic, and it's got the feel of the big boy rifle, and it's so quiet you can just hear the firing pin drop. I mean, with the right ammo, and they hit the target. That's the definition of it. It's okay for that gun to be fun and not really serve a super practical purpose, but just to make your grandkids happy or your kids happy or you. I mean,
I think
happiness is what it comes down to, right? I mean, if it
people
makes you
out
happy,
there-
who cares?
People out there just jump the gun on comments and just what they say and just letting their opinions loose so much. They don't really sit back and think. It's like, I can see where that gun is budget. I can see where that gun is fun. But if you're a competitive shooter and you want to get into like NLR 22 and you don't have $5,000 to spend, but you got $1,500 to spend, well, buddy, guess what?
That's a gun that'll get you in the runnings.
I mean,
For sure.
it'll do the job for that intended purpose.
It will get you there.
And it is, look, I had so much fun the other day. I have the most fun shooting 22 these days. And I probably fired 300 rounds downrange the other day.
Cheap to shoot, no recoil, not a lot of noise, great for the kids.
Yep.
I mean, what's not to like? And it lowers the threshold in terms of distance that you can actually use some real distance training with your rifle. So if you've got a 200 or 300 yard range, you might not have 1,000 yards to take a 6.5 or a 3.0 out, but you can simulate with a 22 because there's a lot of drop. So that gives you, you can still practice those fundamentals.
And you can practice your wind calling, wind holds. I mean, you can use that time for all kinds of skill development, especially, as a spotter, not only as a shooter. So if you've got a buddy with you, you trade off spotting and shooting, and you learn how to read the wind, read the signs, and call your shots. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes we could get down with this.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I think it covers it pretty well, though.
I think so.
I mean, fun guns don't have to have a purpose. Oftentimes don't have a purpose. Sometimes they're kind of goofy and impractical. Sometimes they got some goofy colors. Sometimes some goofy configurations. But at the end of the day, if it makes you happy, that's all that freaking matters. And I'm going to tell you the first problem you made, okay,
What's that?
was by reading comments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even
Well, I don't read
buy-
them. Look, I read them every now and again.
Don't read the comments. That's where you went
Well,
wrong.
it just happened to be at the very top of the list, and I was like, oh, man, come on, that makes me sad.
That's right.
Like, I think I cried a little tear, or shed a little tear.
That's all right.
No, I didn't.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. All right, I want you to go down in the comments section below and leave us some comments, and these I will read. I read the comments. I'm just joking. Actually, I don't. But I do read them. I do read them. Okay.
For the first hour.
I want you to go in the comments section and let us know what is your idea of the perfect fun gun. Doesn't have to be practical, doesn't have to have a reason, but I want to know what your fun guns are, and maybe if we get enough great submissions, we can possibly do a revisit and we can talk about some of your fun guns, and then we'll let you know if we think they're fun or impractical, or we'll give you our critique if you want. So
105 millimeter howitzer.
well, hey, that might be a messy deer kill, but hey, if it's what makes you happy, I guess you can go out to Ox Ranch and go shoot a 105 if you want. And boy, that's the definition of That's the most fun you can have with your pants on there, is to pull a string and send a 105 millimeter howitzer downrange. So definitely cool.
That's a fun gun.
Thank you very much for watching. Many more videos on the way. Go over to Ballistic Ink, pick yourself up a snazzy t-shirt. That's one way you can support us directly if you wish. If you love the videos, love what you see, you can also donate a little money on Patreon to help out our efforts. That greatly supports our channel, and we really appreciate that. Big thank you to everybody that likes, comments, subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell. Many more videos on the way. Tons of stuff, including, yes, we do have a couple of meltdowns on the way. We're working through a few minor logistical things that we're handling, but we do have more meltdowns on the way. Many more videos. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.